All right, I want to thank Chris and Mina for putting on Front Porch. Y'all may not see what goes on in the background, but we all sat down in the green room, and Mina brought in a bag full of stuff: deodorant, toothbrushes, protein bars, just about anything the presenter on the fly could need at the drop of a hat. The only thing she didn't bring was a belt. And so I apologize if I keep pulling my pants up today. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Ionic Framework and mobile apps in general. The first thing is, so you've got a great app idea. Who doesn't have a great app idea right now, right? We were in a room full of web developers and designers, and the possibilities are endless. But the problem is, there's a lot of other people doing the same thing. There's like 1.2 million apps on the Apple App Store right now. Who knows how many on Google, and the other app stores are building up steam as well. But you're gonna create the next breakout dog photo sharing app, because everybody's tired of cats. And for your app to really be a success, you need it on every platform imaginable. You need it on iOS, you need it on Android, Windows Phone, and who knew there's a Firefox mobile phone out right now. And then the upstarts like Tizen, don't forget about them. The problem with that is there's more platforms, more problems, and it's going to cost you a lot of money to get your app out on all those platforms. So just the starting point can be pretty daunting. And so a lot of people have ideas, they're really just not going to explore them. It just seems a bit too scary. And along with development, if you're going to develop native, you've got to have a developer that knows JavaScript or Java. You've got to have another developer that knows Objective-C, or now you've got to all scramble and learn Swift for iOS development. And you're going to have completely separate code bases for all of those apps. And that's, again, rather daunting. So you get the silo problem where people are just developing an app on iOS or just Android. And you're going to have a pretty expensive development cycle. But there's an alternative. And that alternative is what's called hybrid apps. If you've never heard of hybrid apps, they're basically your typical web app, but they're wrapped in a package that has the capability to communicate with the native API on the phone. And the really nice thing about these hybrid apps is that you already use these technologies today. You web designers and you web developers, you know HTML, you know CSS, most of you know JavaScript. And so you can create an app with those technologies exactly as you're using them today, wrap them up in something called Cordova or PhoneGap, and now you have access to the contacts on your iPhone. You have access to the camera on your Android phone. And it's the same type of development you're used to. Okay? But these are not the hybrids you're looking for. Hybrids in the past had a really bad reputation. A few years ago, Facebook came out and said HTML5 is not the way of the future. And they famously abandoned their HTML phone apps. And they cited all kinds of reasons: maintainability, speed, and things like that. Then people turned around the next day and recreated the Facebook app in HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and it worked much better than Facebook did it. Okay? And a lot of times, hybrid apps, sometimes they don't look very good. They're a little clunky, and they got big buttons, and they're kind of like the iOS 6 of the past. But hybrid apps have come a long way. Our phones have gotten a lot more powerful. The JavaScript rendering engines are more powerful. The devices themselves have more capabilities. And HTML5, CSS3, GPU, accelerated transitions, all of those are a lot better today. And so you can have a really nice looking hybrid app that most people will never know that it's not so-called native app. If you go to showcase.ionicframework.com, you'll see some really amazing apps made with Ionic Framework, and they are all HTML5 and CSS. Okay, what is Ionic Framework? Okay, the Ionic Framework is basically a component library. We're all used to the traditional iOS and Android apps that have lists. And they have pop-up modals, and they have dialogues, and they have transitions between views and stuff like that. And this is what Ionic does. it creates all of that for you so you don't have to recreate that wheel. Being able to create a transition on mobile that looks nice and looks similar to what users are familiar with is incredibly difficult. Ionic has taken all of those components and that functionality and that traditional UI and put it in a package for you to use without having to reinvent that. So again, it's the stuff y'all know today. I imagine every single one of you in here could take a few hours and put together a sample app and have it running on your phone as a native app easily within a day, no problems at all. Okay, to make it even easier, the Ionic team is releasing in a few days now what's called Ionic Creator. And it's literally a WYSIWYG, and don't laugh. It's going to be a very powerful tool for creating hybrid apps with drag and drop ease. You'll take the components, a list and a pull to refresh and a menu button and transitions between states. You'll design that in this web GUI, and then it will export it to a JavaScript and an HTML file that you'll be able to package up and put on your phone. It's really nice looking. Okay, if you're developing for any apps, you're going to have a few problems, whether you're developing native or hybrid. You've got to do a lot of setup on your machine to get ready to develop. You've got to install the SDKs for iOS, Xcode, and the developer tools. For Android, you've got to install all the Java SDKs for Android. It's kind of daunting, and it can be quite complicated. If you've got a machine that's a little bit old or you don't know how to configure it, it's really tough to get set up. Ionic has what they call Ionic Box, which is a virtual machine. You install this virtual machine and you run it, and instantly you have all the SDKs necessary to create a hybrid app. Okay, I get quite a few people come to me with ideas for apps. And most of the time they have no money and they want me to be their technical co-founder, or they've got an idea and they need somebody to build it for them, and they're going to share all the profits with us, of course, right? But they don't understand that developing an app is not just putting a GUI on a phone. Your app has to communicate with something. In order for you to like a photo from somebody else, it's got to talk to a back end. And so if you're going to develop an app, you also need a back end. So then you're going to start dealing with security, cross-site scripting requests, cross-site request forgery, shell shock. Are you going to be up all night patching all your servers? What servers are you going to use? You're going to launch it on Amazon, DigitalOcean, Rackspace, or Modulus? And then what stack are you going to use? You're going to LAMP stack, WAMP, Mean, Mongo, and Node.js? And then you got to worry about distribution of your assets. Are you going to set up your own CDN? Now you've got to worry about maintenance and on-call and oh my. Okay, so an app's not a simple undertaking. But that's where Firebase comes to the rescue. A few minutes ago, Alexis presented about real-time, and Firebase is real-time backend for mobile and desktop apps. The really nice thing about it is it's serverless backend. You set up a Firebase node, and it's literally just typing in the name of it, and you're done. Then you have a real-time database backend that can have validation, can have rules, can have authentication. It's got social logins. It works on mobile and desktop across all devices. If you don't want any servers at all, you can use integrations like with Zapier, whereas a new customer signs up in your app and instantly Zapier recognizes you've got a new customer and they send them a welcome email. So Firebase and some other integrations can completely replace your need for any back-end development at all. Okay, so to demonstrate Ionic and Firebase, I created a little demo app. Now, I am not a designer. My idea of design, about as good as I can do, is stick figures with hair. So this app took me about 12 hours to put together, okay? And I hate to admit, most of that was finagling with the CSS and the images and trying to get the images to fit into my app. The rest of it was literally like that, okay? It took 662 lines of code that I had to write, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. It works on iOS, Android, and desktop. It has real-time updates. As I'll demonstrate, when a user likes one of our presentations, it updates across 1, 10, 1,000, 1 million devices instantly with no work on my part. If somebody adds a comment to a presentation, again, everybody that has that app at that instant has those updates automatically, no work on your part. So let me present that here. I'm going to present it side by side in both iOS and Android, if both will fit on the screen here. Okay, see that little app icon there? That took me about 2.5 hours to make. Okay, so here is the Front Porch conference app, all right? This looks like, and unfortunately, guys, let me scale this so you can see everything here. Okay, so you've got a traditional tab interface, all right? As you can see in Android, it uses Android-style tabs. And all I had to do was put in the code that I wanted tabs. I didn't have to say they were Android tabs. I didn't have to say they were iOS tabs. And you've got the little indicator like you expect to see on most Android apps. On iOS, it's the more traditional iOS-style tabs. And if I do a pull here, I instantly get pull to refresh. Okay. Now, the funny thing about that is I don't need pull to refresh in this app because it's all backed by Firebase and changes are instantaneous. But I wanted you to see that. With Ionic, I mean, out of the box, you get pull to refresh. Okay. I can scroll through this and I get nice hardware, you know, the nice rubber band type scroll. Let me click over here to Android. And Android's running in a simulator that's not very good, so it's a little bit clunky, but on the device, it's not clunky. So you can see I can do that there. I can switch to the speakers, and I can scroll through and see information about all of the speakers. Same thing with Android. It takes a little bit longer. I can scroll through and see all of this. So as you see right now, these apps are identical, okay? If I wanted to, I could put a little customization on the Android side to make it look more like an traditional Android app, but I don't have to. And this is the exact same code base. There's not a single line of difference between these two, and I'm able to develop on both of them instantaneously. That's the power of the Ionic Framework. One last tab here. Here's all of our sponsors, and again, thanks to all of them for supporting Front Porch IO. Now let's walk through this a little bit here. So we're gonna look at Chris's presentation here. I'm gonna click on it here, and I'll click over it on Android as well. Okay. As you can see, nobody has liked his presentation. I mean, that's kind of embarrassing. So we better boost his spirits here a little bit and make Chris feel a little bit liked here. So I liked it. And notice here that my likes incremented. This isn't some trickery on my part. There's not some local server running. This is live over the internet right now. And if you didn't notice, on Android, it got the like instantly. I'm going to like over here, watch over on the iOS side. These are two completely independent apps. And I can like over here, and boom, everybody likes Chris's presentation. Isn't that great? Okay, so I can also do comments. So I do a comment here, and notice as I did that, the nice modal that pops up. That's another component of Ionic Framework where I didn't have to design that interaction. I didn't have to worry about the animation. It's just there. It's a simple include in the file. So I'm going to put in a comment here. And I fire it off. And as you can see, even on the Android side, it's instantly there. That's the power of Firebase. Okay, this is using WebSockets. And WebSockets on a desktop, they're actually pretty easy to implement. It's fun. It's exciting to be able to see your changes that you just push to the server happen instantly on hundreds of other desktops. But on mobile, it's really tough. Your device has a flaky connection. Your user can instantly close your app. And being able to keep that WebSocket alive and get it back when they open your app is a really tough thing to do. Well, with Firebase, you don't need to do that. They've done that work for you. So the second you include Firebase, you've instantly got WebSockets. So I'm going to try to show something here at the same time. It's kind of hard to do on this smaller screen. I'm going to show you my Firebase that's running this presentation. And if you'll look here, here's the likes counter for Chris. Okay, it says 7 right now. I'm going to pull the iOS app over here, and I'm going to start liking Chris's presentation even more. And as I do that, you can see on the web page, his likes are automatically increasing. Okay? So that's what Firebase is. It's a back end, it's a validation system, an authentication system, and it's a live database that you can push data to. Okay? And as you can see, it happens instantaneously. It's really nice. Okay? So that's the demo of the two apps. Now let's talk about Ionic a little bit more. Okay, there's some samples in case my live demonstration failed on me. How did I create something like this? To get started with Ionic is actually really easy. You just need to have a few things installed on your machine, npm, and then you install an Ionic command line client. This isn't necessary. You can do all of this by hand coding it yourself. But with the Ionic install command line tool, you can be up and running incredibly shortly. I'm going to give you an example here. I'm going to start up a new, okay, I'm going to create a new app on the fly right now. Let's hope it works. Okay, this is going to be slightly different. It's not going to be the full app I just showed, but it'll give you an example of how easy it is to get started. So I'm going to paste this command line in here. And I don't know if you can see that. Let me zoom it up a bit there. Okay, so all I'm saying there is Ionic start. Start a new app for me. Call it Front Porch App Live. And I'm going to base it on some pre-built Ionic templates. You can base it on several Ionic templates. And on CodePen, there's some pre-built Ionic apps that have tabs or side menus or likes and things like that that you can automatically import into a new app. I'm gonna use the app name Front Porch, and if you're familiar with iOS development, you'll see my scheme there. So I'm gonna press enter, and let's hope it all works here. So it's downloading a lot of stuff from GitHub right now. It's going reasonably quickly. Okay, in addition to the side menu templates, you can start with a blank, which just gives you the scaffold you need to get rolling. You can also start with the tabs interface like you saw that I just presented, side menu, and as I said, any example Ionic app on CodePen, you can import into a brand new app for you. So it's done. And if I change directory to, I got to find out what I called it here, Front Porch App Live. So that's what it downloaded for me. It created all of this stuff. Now I'm going to do something really cool here. I'm going to serve this app right here and now. So I do Ionic Serve. I don't have to give this port information by default, but I'm going to for my needs. And it's instantly going to start serving up an Ionic app. Now I'm going to close this here in Safari because I'm going to use Chrome. Oops. Okay, so there's my app running in Chrome, emulated as an iPhone. I didn't do any work besides type in 2 commands. And I have a nice scrollable list. I have a side menu. I have a login screen. You notice how that popped up. Search, just an empty search page, an empty browse page, and again to my playlists. Okay? So that's how quickly you can get rolling with Ionic. You've done nothing and you have an app with a side menu. And side menus are pretty difficult to create. So let me show you something here with this. I will edit this app really quickly. Okay, So as you can see there, the title of this page is called Playlists. I'm going to move this over, minimize that, and that. Okay, I'm going to change this to Front Porch. And I didn't have to do anything there. Ionic comes with a live reload capability, whereas you're making code changes, they'll instantly reflect in the browser. Okay, so let me give one more example of that. Mina's talk was about Sass and how Sass makes your CSS easier. Okay, Ionic comes fully loaded with Sass capabilities where the colors of the headers and the modal header, or the modal title bars and things like that, they've all got a lot of different colors, but you don't want to run out there with a stock looking app. You want your own custom colors and stuff. So here is the demo app running in the browser. I'm going to change, oops, 1 second. I'm going to change the CSS here to be a little bit different. Mina's going to throw a fit here. And again, live reload, I've changed the look and feel of my app with just a single Sass change. And change it back, and now the app's reloaded live with a new color scheme. So that's how powerful Ionic is and how well thought out the developers made Ionic. It gives you all the UI components, all the customizability that you'd want in a very easy to use package. Okay, so I really can't teach you how to use Ionic in 20 minutes, but you saw from just a few samples that you can literally get rolling and build the scaffolding of a native app in just a few minutes. If you spent a day or a few days learning Ionic, you'll need to learn AngularJS. You'd be able to do the same things, and those ideas you've had about apps that you've just kind of put away because it just seems overwhelming, you can now realize that you can accomplish something fairly easily. If you'd like a more in-depth overview of how to build an MVP app using Ionic and Firebase, I'm going to present at the AngularJS DFW meetup next week, and I'll go into a lot more detail, actually do the coding so you can see building an Ionic app using Firebase as your backend. If you're not familiar with hybrid apps at all and would like to get an introduction to hybrid apps using Cordova or PhoneGap, they mean the same thing, Cordova and PhoneGap, just a few differences. There's a Dallas PhoneGap meetup on October 9th, this Thursday, and it's going to be a very low-level introduction to hybrid app development. And that's me, Justin Noel, and if you've got any questions or would like more information, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.